Obviously, we've been talking about this deal for quite some time, and I didn't see. I have to be 100% honest with you guys. I did not see a 5-year, $100 million deal for Amari Cooper. The structure is important, though, and obviously Dallas has talked about committing to getting Dak paid. But with that being said, man, we are back at square one of what we talked about on this show nonstop. Feels like ad nauseum. Everybody else is paid. So now what creeps into the conversation is Dak and his side being difficult? Is it that much of an impasse that it has taken this long to get a contract done? Or is it that Dallas is not willing to commit to the guy that they see as their franchise quarterback? There's only two answers, and I mean two questions, and those are the questions, G. Obviously, they've sent over some deals for Dak. It's come back, and they haven't been able to reach any terms. But to see this happen with Amari Cooper last year, we talked about Zeke Elliott, we talked about DeMarcus Lawrence, and all of these guys that they paid. Dak is still the man sitting on the outside without a long-term commitment with the Dallas Cowboys. It's mind-boggling to me to think that your quarterback, your franchise guy that you've said is your franchise guy, is the last one to get paid on the totem pole.
Yeah, Orlovsky, when we talk about this, so much of it has been that, the Cowboys aren't paying Dak and all of that. But then maybe this is coming more from the Cowboys camp in all reality. What's your reaction to hearing that they might be really close and just cannot get this deal done?
Well, if they're really close, you don't haggle your franchise quarterback over $4 or $5 million a year. We've talked about this on the show that if the difference is $4 or $5 million and it's a 4 or 5 year deal, you're looking at the difference over that time period of $15 or $20 million for your franchise quarterback. So, who is being the more difficult party when it comes to this, the more unrealistic party when it comes to this? When we look at the Amari deal, first of all, they had to get it done. You can see that the Cowboys, because of their mismanagement of the situation, costed themselves some money. That is a massive amount of money. It's really falling in line second, only behind Julio Jones, and their resumes just don't match up between Julio and Amari. It's really what vantage point you want to look at this through. If you want to look at the Amari deal through the vantage point of he's the guy that resurrected Dak Prescott's career, because ever since they brought him over, he's been the best passer in football when it comes to statistics, right? So you could look at it through that vantage point and say, no brainer. You could also look at it through the vantage point of you just gave 5 years and $100 million to the guy that on the most important play of the season last year, 4th and 8 against Philadelphia, was not on the field. And that's the way you've got to look at it, Swag. It was like, which vantage point do you want to look at it through when it comes to this deal on the Cowboys?
I think it's a lot of things revolving around that. Listen, here's where we are. Where we are in Dallas is a new head coach in Mike McCarthy. So obviously there was some conversation going on between him and the front office of how important they thought Amari Cooper was to the success of this offense. Those guys doing their due diligence and trying to figure out what's the best possible situation, not only to have us in a great position where we have a guy on the outside that's a number one, but to possibly put our quarterback in the best situation, even if we're dealing with a contract dispute right now. I remember Mike McCarthy at the Combine talking about we'll get it done. These things take time. He was talking about he was with Aaron Rodgers and how much time it took, even though it wasn't played out in the media. Obviously, it's the Cowboys, and we're going to talk about it. And obviously, it's Dak Prescott playing on fourth-round numbers in which he got drafted. But with that being said, Dan, when I look back at the Philly spot and I think about that situation, whether it was Amari Cooper or Jason Garrett, a lot of things have changed since we came along from them trying to get into the playoffs. So I'll be interested to see what the talk is out of Dallas, how the response is to this contract that they just signed. But you don't sign no damn body to a 5-year, $100 million deal if it ain't been a lot of good conversations going on around what he's going to do with that franchise and obviously how better he makes Dak when he's on the field.
Guys, if I were to pose it this way, I would just like to get your perspective, because I think this is a reasonable way to look at it. If you look at what the Cowboys have done over roughly the last 12 months, they find themselves in a situation where they are about to pay a very good but not great quarterback. They're over a barrel. He will wind up having to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL or close to it. They have a very good but clearly not number one echelon wide receiver who they put themselves in a trick bag and have now had to pay him the second most of any receiver in the sport. They let the running back, who had absolutely no leverage, hold them over a barrel by going to Cabo. They folded for no reason, paid him all the money in the world, came in and then chose not to feature him this year in the way that we thought. And oh, by the way, all that leaves them in a position where one of their best players on defense signs a huge free agent deal with someone else yesterday. So from the outside looking in, it looks to me like the Cowboys have gotten a lot of this wrong. Where am I missing it?
Gee, I feel so bad that you just went through all of that, because I damn near feel the same way, man. But what I will say is this. When you look at what Jerry is doing, when you look at what Steven has been doing, when you think about these players, and look, when they gave the first-round draft pick away for Amari Cooper, that was a commitment then. I didn't know it was going to be a 5-year, $100 million commitment, but we all knew it would be a commitment. And then the market dictated. Teams were in conversation with Amari Cooper about signing and getting his services. So there's a lot of things I feel like from the outside, I'm agreeing with you, G, that they got wrong, man.
I think the reality is the Cowboys, you don't want this time period to be known as a wasted opportunity. They've already lost some years with the talent that they had with Tony Romo and Jason Witten and Des Bryant, and they never won their championship. And the Cowboys now feel pressure. They better get their players locked up that they have now and win their championship, because they missed their opportunity in the years past.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.